When I hear the words All-American, it touches my heart, that's for sure. Words like role model, energetic, commitment, and resolute come to mind. As an organization, we have set the bar high for our leaders, and this year's All-American commanders have demonstrated their worth and over the past year. Having reached 101.60% nationally in membership as an organization, to say this year's recruiting efforts were a success would be an understatement. As today, it brings me great pride to celebrate and honor these commanders' unrelenting passion and devotion to our organization. I'm proud to announce that we have 48 departments commanders, 232 district commanders, and 854 post commanders who have earned the highest, most distinguished title, and most are here with us today as All-Americans. I will now be joined by Senior Vice Commander-in-Chief Dwayne Sarmiento and Junior Vice Commander-in-Chief Al Liphart to present the All-American Commander Awards to this exclusive group.
From the Department of Alabama, Tammy C. Johnson. From the Department of Arizona, Michael J. Kimmery. Let me know when they're done. Touch me, but don't punch me. From the Department of Arkansas, Jeffrey Todd Bird. From the Department of California, Martin W. Yingling. From the Department of Connecticut, Mario J. Richards. From the Department of Delaware, William R. Hall.
Hold on. He's using the elevator. That's you, right? You didn't want to do the stairs.
All the way from the Department of Europe, Angelo D. Aldridge. It's a long way from Europe, so From the Department of Florida, Ronald D. Mills. From the Department of Georgia, Dean A. Rakowski.
Both levels. He only wants to walk once.
From the Department of Hawaii, Frank Bragg.
Hey, Bob, can you get him upstairs? Bob, you can hold him up the line.
From the Department of Idaho, Bobby D. Tettleton. From the Department of Illinois, Bobby J. Edwards. From the Department of Indiana, Richard W. Lear.
I got you a trash box. You get two next time.
All right. From the Department of Iowa, Ronald D. Lieber. From the Department of Kansas, James A. Ratcliffe. From the Department of Kentucky, Nate Sesko. From the Department of Louisiana, Don A. Reber. You're welcome, brother. From the Department of Maine, Jennifer L. Lane.
Army commanders will stay for the photo. Brian's corral up there.
From the Department of Maryland, Brian M. Langford. Hey, John. From the Department of Massachusetts, Michael A. Raymond. From the Department of Michigan, John A. Griffith. From the Department of Minnesota, Dale A. Hoogeven. From the Department of Missouri, Royce R. Kelb. From the Department of Montana, Jeffrey D. Shep. From the Department of Nebraska, Jeffrey M. Baker. From the Department of Nevada, Daniel M. Sanders. From the Department of New Hampshire, Leon Rideout. From the Department of New Jersey, J. E. Boxwell. Hey, John.
F around and find out.
You guys stop playing his nonsense.
East Coast Mafia.
From the Department of New Mexico, Christopher L. Archuleta. From the Department of North Carolina, Timothy P. Woods. From the Department of Ohio, John T. Green.
Good job. Good job, John.
From the Department of Oklahoma, also known as District 15 in Texas, Jeremy Owen. From the Department of the Pacific Areas, Warren Maxson.
You know Tiger, right?
I know Tiger.
And I thought it was Tigger.
From the Department of Pennsylvania, Henry R. Manella.
You gotta learn this routine if you're gonna be working here. Head comes up the stairs.
From the Department of Rhode Island, Joe Tiger Patrick. From the Department of South Carolina, Edward G. Stefanik. From the Department of South Dakota, Thomas A. Hefner. From the Republic of Texas, Carl Lynn Toomer. Hell yeah! From the Department of Utah, Thorold A. Curtis. From the Department of Virginia, Jeffrey D. Leister. From the Department of Washington, Paul M. Herrera. From the Department of West Virginia, Karina M. Boggis. From the Department of Wisconsin, Michelle A. Rathke. From the Department of Wyoming, Danielle P. Smith. Comrades, that is your list of all-American department commanders. If they would please assemble behind Commander-in-Chief Borland for a group photo, after which we will start with the district commanders that made All-American.
It wasn't a full podium, so I got you watched. There's water for you underneath.
Are you an overachiever? Okay.
One right here, please. You're setting the pace for everybody behind you. Smile. You'll go right up the stairs to the top. That's the first one walks across. Once you walk across, they'll go up. Once I get Dan, I'll take yours. Swap out the citation. He's okay. You swap it? Yes. Thank you, thank you. First district, go ahead, sir.
Rick, is that it for the district commander? That's it?
No, they're coming.
They're coming up one row at a time.
I was like, dang.
So before we bring the district commanders up, I just want to let everyone know that the Department of the Pacific Areas and the Department of Kentucky had every post at 100%.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, this is your All-American District Commanders from the Department of Alabama, Brandon A. Bagwell.
Pronounce burn like a fire.
From the Department of Arizona, District 10 Commander Lori A. Byrne. From the Department of Arizona, District 8 Commander Britt Deuce Brandt. From the Department of Arkansas, Thomas A. Thalen, District 13. From the Department of Arkansas, District 1, Jerry T. Tobey. From the Department of Arkansas, Adam C. Strange, District 7. From the Department of California, David A. Kuda, District 17. From the Department of Connecticut, John A. Kennedy, District 1. Tuck your goddamn shirt in. Tuck your shirt in. From the Department of Delaware, Fulton F. Lepoto, District 4. From the Department of Europe, John J. Casey, District 1. From the Department of Florida, Michael E. Klein, District 1. From the Department of Florida, Chris A. Gates, District 19. From the Department of Georgia, John R. Goolsby, District 5. From the Department of Georgia, Denisa Adams, District 6. From the Department of Georgia, James M. Jensen, District 7. From the Department of Georgia, Jason L. Nichols, District 2. From the Department of Idaho, Lee A. Hartwig, District 2.
Sorry, I only installed you in Idaho. Well, look, make sure you represent All-American again next year.
From the Department of Idaho, Troy H. Jr., District 5. From the Department of Illinois, Dustin H. Dixon, District 12. From the Department of Illinois, Christopher D. Maynor, District 15. From the Department of Kansas, James J. Boyle III, District 5. From the Department of Kentucky, William B. Thomason, District 11. Had to take your shoe off to count that high. From the Department of Kentucky, Glenn E. Phillips Jr., District 8. From the Department of Kentucky, David S. Wilson, District 1.
Tebby?
From the Department of Kentucky, Scott A. Van Tassel, District 4.
Ignore the O, it's just Tebby.
From the Department of Kentucky, James E. Tebby, District 9. From the Department of Kentucky, Justin D. Holland, District 10. From the Department of Kentucky, Jeffrey M. Keene, District 5. From the Department of Louisiana, James M. Prestonback, District 3. Doing all right, brother. Congratulations. From the Department of Louisiana, Philip Lawrence, District 11. From the Department of Maryland, Michael Johnson, District 4. From the Department of Maryland, Claudia E. Walter, District 1. From the Department of Maryland, Joseph A. Chickalow, District 3. From the Department of Massachusetts, Greg L. DeOld, District 5. From the Department of Massachusetts, Heath E. Joseph, District 7. From the Department of Minnesota, Jared T. McReynolds, District 7. From the Department of Missouri, E. Buddy McEachran, District 9.
This is Norman L. Tony and John.
From the Department of Nebraska, Norman L. Tony Anton, District 9. From the Department of New Jersey, Barbara A. Hageman, District 12. From the Department of New Jersey, Yvonne Zereth, District 8. From the Department of New York, Marcelo J. Rotunda, District 6. From the Department of North Carolina, Mike A. Baker, District 8. From the Department of North Carolina, David L. Martin, District 7. From the Department of Ohio, Iris Foster Denui, District 11. From the Department of Ohio, Luther L. Sawicki, District 7. From the Department of Oklahoma, Dan M. Fuller, District 5. From the Department of Oklahoma, Jason W. Burns, District 14. From the Department of Oklahoma, Brandy M. Schaefer, District 10. From the Department of the Pacific Areas, Donald E. Kelly, District 3. From the Department of the Pacific Areas, Randy S. Riggs, District 5. From the Department of the Pacific Areas, James E. Collins, District 7. From the Department of Pennsylvania, Jessica M. King, District 29. From the Department of Pennsylvania, Frederick W. Heckler, District 18.
Doing district now. One up the stairs. Be on the fire.
From the Department of South Carolina, Curtis W. Peterson, Jr., District 1. From the Department of South Carolina, Todd A. Haviland, District 7. From the Department of South Carolina, Theonis S. Brown, District 2.
I put the note for you.
From the Department of Tennessee, Kimberly A. King, District 5.
What, Reggie?
That's his note.
From the Department of Texas, Reggie L. Williams, District 3, the #1 district commander in the VFW. From the Department of Texas, Barbara A. Empong, District 30. From the Department of Texas, Joel H. Pipes, District 19. From the Department of Texas, Sean P. Ellis, District 4. From the Department of Texas, Georg Kitchen, District 2.
This one's pronounced Dom.
From the Department of Virginia, Jeffrey I. Dombroff, District 8. From the Department of Virginia, Benjamin T. Guinan, District 10.
This one's pronounced Bujak.
From the Department of Washington, Daniel A. Bujak, District 4. From the Department of Washington, Glenn Albert, District 9. From the Department of West Virginia, Toby Heaney, District 1. From the Department of Wisconsin, Manuel C. Salas, District 1. Yeah, hurry up. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, that concludes the District All-American. We will now present the Post-All-American recipients.
Saying hold on. Borland's calling it.
Come on back. Did you guys anything?
No?
On the back? You're good?
I think we're good. There's some water under here for Dan if he gets parched.
I'm good. I'm sucking on some cough drops.
You're doing good. Sounds good.
Joy's telling me 856.
That's here?
Can't
No. It was, Rick, how many post commanders did you hear? You had to guess, Matt.
About 200. We're at 200.
What's that, they've been out?
Yeah, we had 255 total seats. So, 45. Actually, less than 200. How's Corey doing?
See if Dad can protect it. Then he's doing the Texas auction. All right, 102. Why do you do a whole state at a time?
How you doing here?
I'm good. I don't know. It's a good reason.
Yeah, tell the chief there's no break time in here.
Now, all the names like that in the whole department.
I could do some time.
Aloha. What's happening?
gotta be hard on Al Street. Stan.
Kill this thing.
Comrades, we appreciate your patience as we get set up to present the Post All-Americans. Just a few more minutes.
Becoming your Aloha shirt.
All right, he's back. Good grand smile move.
Go announce by department, name, thing. All right, he said okay. Or you don't want to do that. Tell me.
They all expect him to do the photo. Thank you. All right. Go on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Go up the stairs.
comrades and patriots of the auxiliary, from the Department of Alabama, Brandon E. Bagwell, Post 3073.
Come on over to the other. Juilliard. I gotta get these pictures down a little faster.
From the Department of Alabama, Colt J. Juilliard, Post 3128.
Come on over here.
From the Department of Alabama, Robert A. Schmidbauer, Sr. From the Department of Alabama, Brian E. Hampton.
Roll off. Let's roll down the hill.
Alabama!
From the Department of Alabama, Eric J. Roloff. From the Department of Alaska, Herschel J. Deaton. From the Department of Alaska, David A. Hutchinson.
It was 9972. Take a picture. It was 9972. That's where he first joined.
From the Department of Arizona, Susan M. Warner.
First name's Nedra.
From the Department of Arizona, Nedra Seeley. From the Department of Arizona, Frank J. White.
You guys are working too hard, man. Semper Fi, brother. Good to see you
Simplify.
again.
Thank you. Department of Arizona, James J. Shanley. From the Department of Arizona, Joseph P. Dora.
Hustle bus.
I'm just confirming.
I would too.
From the Department of Arizona, Derek L. Hustlebus.
He says Chris, I won't be afraid.
From the Department of Arizona, Jason G. Kaloff.
He said he's okay with just Chris.
From the Department of Arizona, Chris Branch. Thank you. From the Department of Arkansas, Mark A. Calcaterra. From the Department of Arkansas, Teddy A. Pipkin. We'll find out. From the Department of Arkansas, Dominic J. Lesterman. From the Department of Arkansas, Norman G. Powell. From the Department of California, Michael J. Lynn. From the Department of California, Mark R. Steinberg. From the Department of California, Angelo G. Maldonado. From the Department of California, Michael A. Hill.
Hold on a second. I think that's him walking across. Kind of a hold up here for some reason.
I don't think he rehearsed for standing in one spot. From the Department of California, Michael A. A. Cato.
Hey, got a photo with Rick?
Come on over, sir. Next in the queue.
From the Department of Connecticut, Joseph C. Beal. From the Department of Connecticut, Charles M. Pickett.
Yeah, right here. Sir.
Stand. Nice city right here, right?
From the Department of Delaware, Thomas D. McGee. From the Department of Europe, Dwight Johnson. From the Department of Florida, Chris A. Gates. From the Department of Florida, David A. Kane.
How you doing, sir? Oh, John, congratulations. Got your triple crown, buddy.
He did it back Azores, didn't he?
Took him 30 years.
From the Department of Florida, Justin R. Moss. Oh, I'm going to have fun with this one. From the Department of Florida, past Commander-in-Chief John E. Hamilton, who had to do it the hard way and go in reverse order. From the Department of Florida, Kevin S. Heiss. From the Department of Georgia, Dwayne M. Kilborn.
Come on over, buddy. Congratulations.
From the Department of Georgia, Lamar R. Pounds. From the Department of Georgia, Wayne Collins. From the Department of Georgia, D.W. Miles. From the Department of Georgia, Theodore A. Beal. From the Department of Georgia, Curtis S. Talley. From the Department of Hawaii, Wayne Ed Yoshioka. Thank you. From the Department of Idaho, Tammy L. Clement. From the Department of Idaho, M. Lucky Gallego. From the Department of Idaho, Ralph W. Binion III. From the Department of Idaho, David T. Fry. From the Department of Illinois, Joshua Seed. From the Department of Illinois, Alonzo J. Skipper. From the Department of Illinois, John W. McGlynn Sr. From the Department of Illinois, Ronald L. Knapp. Hyphenated, right?
Yeah.
From the Department of Illinois, Amy Lair Wagner. From the Department of Illinois, Daniel L. Tate.
This one's Matthias.
From the Department of Illinois, Matthias L. Carter. From the Department of Illinois, Seth E. Floyd. From the Department of Indiana, Roger A. Ferguson. Lang or Lange?
I'd say Lang. Kenneth Lang.
From the Department of Indiana, Kenneth A. Lang. From the Department of Indiana, and Edith M. Tosellier. From the Department of Indiana, Joseph H. Wolf III. From the Department of Iowa, Gregory B. Allen.
Come on over here.
From the Department of Kansas, Hans Hull. From the Department of Kansas, Richard D. Brown. From the Department of Kansas, David P. Babin. Is this Louisiana or Louisiana? From the Department of Louisiana, James H. Mencho Jr. You got me with that one, Thomas. From the Department of Louisiana, James D. Bork. From the Department of Louisiana, Thomas L. Bonio, Sr.
This one's Cusamano. Come on over.
From the Department of Louisiana, Albert M. Cusiano.
Up, going up.
From the Department of Louisiana, Carl J. Carnish.
Come on over, sir.
From the Department of Louisiana, Walter R. Korb. From the Department of Louisiana, Robert E. Boudreaux, Sr. From the Department of Maryland, Michael J. Eason. From the Department of Maryland, Craig M. Conrad.
Come on up. Can you guys announce the post? Please.
From the Department of Massachusetts, Eric Segundo.
Special request to announce his post number. Over here, stay at the bottom of the stairs when he walks forward, going up.
From the Department of Michigan, Christopher A. Templeton, Post 1669.
Go to the bottom of the stairs. All right.
From the Department of Michigan, Kimberly A. Napoleon.
Going up, sir. Come on over here.
From the Department of Minnesota, Timothy V. Kent. From the Department of Minnesota, Paul B. Lindahl. From the Department of Minnesota, Edward J. Kehoe.
How you doing there, sir? Lots.
That's a conflict of interest.
Marvin, membership, Dotson.
From the Department of Mississippi, David R. Thompson.
Announcer Marvin, New Carla.
From the Department of Mississippi, Ira Turner, Jr. From the Department of Missouri, Marvin G. Dotson, Jr. From the Department of Missouri, Tommy L. McLaren. Just circle it, I'll know.
Yeah.
From the Department of Missouri, Bruce E. Watson. From the Department of Missouri, Jerome E. Cummins, Post 2365. I think that's called fraternization. From the Department of Missouri, Donna M. Kinder, Post 8045. From the Department of Nebraska, Darrell R. McMillan. From the Department of Nebraska, Celeste K. Johnson. From the Department of Nevada, Candace F. Lopez. From the Department of Nevada, Daniel D. Myers. From the Department of Nevada, Luke E. Bialczyk. From the Department of New Jersey, 1, our class. From the Department of New Jersey, Felipe Manuel Oliveria. From the Department of New Mexico, Daryl Mellon. From the Department of New Mexico, Andrew J. Norris. From the Department of New Mexico, Mark A. Bowman.
He's got families asking for posts.
From the Department of North Carolina, Edward E. Beard, Post 6018.
I thought it was going to be a half an hour, but
It's a big group.
From the Department of North Carolina, Wendy L. Silvera. It's killing me.
It's the first time I saw that.
From the Department of North Carolina, Robert R. Kennedy.
She said the standard.
From the Department of North Carolina, Mike A. Baker. From the Department of North Carolina, William P. Wade. From the Department of North Carolina, Bridget Leitner. From the Department of Ohio, John R. Gorman. From the Department of Ohio, Federico Rojas, Jr.
got my back. See, I got to get my 577.
From the Department of Ohio, Michael H. Romans. From the Department of Oklahoma, Dan M. Fuller. Post 577. From the Department of Oklahoma, Ron J. Albert.
Semper Fi, brother.
From the Department of the Pacific Areas, James E. Collins. From the Department of Pennsylvania, Craig A. Fisher. From the Department of Pennsylvania, Thomas A. Sally. From the Department of Pennsylvania, Stephen L. Sellers, Jr.
This is Dan West and Rick Hotler. Rick's director of media. He's all right. Come on over, sir. I'd say Denda.
From the Department of Pennsylvania, Lyle R. Denda, Post 7810. Good to see you too. From the Department of Rhode Island, Howard F. McMillan. From the Department of South Carolina, Reginald A. Bell. From the Department of South Carolina, James Reed. From the Department of South Carolina, Con W. Farley. From the Department of South Dakota, Lyle W. Sunderland. Doing all right, John. You ready for your big moment? From the Department of South Dakota, Charles D. McKean, Jr. From the great state of Texas, Eric Michael Theodore Grodicut. From the Department of Texas, John C. Baines. From the Department of Texas, Juan Martinez, Jr. From the Department of Texas, Wayne A. Strickland. From the Department of Texas, Daniel J. Rich.
Way to go, Dan.
From the Department of Texas, Jack A. Sturgill. From the Department of Texas, Willie E. Keller, Jr. From the Department of Texas, Preston R. Calloway. From the Department of Texas, James W. Brown. From the Department of Texas, James W. Pratt. From the Department of Texas, George Kitchen.
Thanks, Commander. You're messing up my system. Yes, sir. Come on over, buddy.
Way to go, George.
From the Department of Texas, Richard D. Shaver. From the Department of Texas, Reggie L. Williams. I saw her first.
You get Triple Crown this year? I only remember him.
He'll come back up.
Moonshine the Writer.
From the Department of Texas, Jimmy R. Douglas. From the Department of Texas, Lupita M. Perez. From the Department of Texas, Eddie L. Terry. From the Department of Utah, William J. Greer. From the Department of Virginia, Doris M. Wallet. From the Department of Virginia, Todd A. Taylor. From the Department of Virginia, Mitchell L. Rubenstein. I'd hate for my voice to give out.
I'll step in. I'm ready, Coach.
From the Department of Washington, Charles A. Bond. From the Department of Washington, Billy J. Wright, Jr. From the Department of West Virginia, Thomas L. Torrance.
Can I get a picture?
From the Department of West Virginia, William H. White, Jr.
The office. Corner's General Secretary.
From the Department of Wisconsin, Michael E. Zentak. We got triple crowns after this. From the Department of Wisconsin, Mark W. Klein.
Thanks, Dan. Triple Crowns?
All right, for those of you that remained in the hall, we got one more before we recess for this afternoon. Introduction of Triple Crown winners. To earn the coveted VFW Triple Crown, a commander must achieve All-American at post, district, and department level. The VFW's own Triple Crown winners must have a proven history of exceptional leadership, be established at recruiting new members, and demonstrate a strong support of VFW programs. By achieving All-American at the post, district, and department levels, these commanders joined an elite group such as myself and can boast this achievement. I'm honored to recognize this year's VFW Triple Crown winners here on stage behind me. From the Department of Arkansas, William B. Jr. Okay, now here. From the Department of Florida, John Hamilton. You can do this.
From the Department of Georgia, Dean Rikoski. From the Department of Illinois, Bobby Edwards. From the Department of Indiana, Richard Lear. From the Department of Massachusetts, two-timers, Michael Raymond and Eric Segundo. From the Department of Minnesota, Dale Hugavin. From the Department of New Jersey, Luddy Austin and Barbara Hageman. From the Department of Pacific Areas, Warren Maxson. From the Department of South Carolina, Edward Stefanek, Jr. From the great state of Texas, Richard Shover. From the Department of Utah, Danny Zaharias. And from the Department of Virginia, Jeffrey Leister. Let's give this group of commanders a big round of applause as we say congratulations for attaining such a notable record of achievement.
All right, after they get their pins, we are going to recess until 2 p.m. See you at 2 p.m.